Welcome into episode 17 of the Cleveland Sports Realm podcast. I'm Jerome, joined by Kevin, producer Derek on the other side of the glass here, doing a fantastic job as always. And it is episode 17, but first time we are recording a new episode available on Apple now.
That's right.
So we are on Apple Podcasts too, and you can catch all our previous episodes for those of you who use Apple Podcasts. So now 3 different platforms you can catch us on: Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcast, all available to catch the Cleveland Sports Realm podcast. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We're recording this Tuesday night. I've been getting back to the gym this week for the first time in a while. So that's always a process. The first consecutive day streak I've put together in about half a year.
Yeah,
so feeling it.
Good for you. I should really follow suit in that. I need to get back there myself.
It's the hardest thing about it's getting up and going.
Yeah, I agree.
Hardest part.
I agree. So let's get into it. Let's start off actually with a thing we missed last week, and the story had just broken when we recorded last week, a couple of days prior to, but WNBA is coming back to Cleveland. The Rockers will be back in 2028.
Yeah, the Cleveland Rockers. Exciting. It's an exciting time. So 3 years away from them now, and should be fun to get them back out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they will train at the current Cavs facility in Independence, and the Cavs are actually going to move downtown to that new palatial estate dance building on the riverfront down there.
Oh, okay.
So that's where
Cool.
the Cavs are going to relocate their daily training to. We said that we didn't want to talk about them for a while, but now they've they've forced our hand here, and we are going to actually start with a few Browns notes this evening, Kevin. And I know I said I didn't want to talk about them, and I still don't have great positive vibes coming from what we heard today. Andrew Berry spoke at the Combine. I think nothing that really surprised us, but definitely a few noteworthy items.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, the number one thing I think being that he had brought up that Nick Chubb is most likely going to be testing free agency this offseason, which very much stings as a Browns fan. He's one of those homegrown talents. He's been in the face of the franchise, I think, even more so than Miles amongst the fan base, at least. Maybe not nationally across the league, but for sure for this fan base. Nick Chubb's one of those players that nothing controversial about him. Nicest dude in the world, hands the football to the ref, embraced the city. We embraced him back. It's one of those relationships I wish could go on forever, and it looks like it could potentially be coming to an end this offseason, and that just breaks your heart.
Yeah, and it's not even as much as Nick on the field. We know that, he's kind of at that age for running backs, but I still think his leadership, his sheer presence in the locker room, again, he's such a good community guy, the face of the franchise, all that. And I think just when they have so much bad PR going on, to give this guy a 1-year deal, what the hell is it going to cost the difference to him? I mean, they stink as is.
Yeah, especially for a running back who's had now 2 straight season-ending injuries.
Right, but they stink. The fans are livid and pissed off, and now you're going to just let the fan. And the Steelers rumors make my stomach just turn. That's disgusting.
And Andrew Berry said last year when they re-signed him, it wasn't even about the on-the-field play. He said it's because of how much you mean to the city of Cleveland. And then the fact that that's almost changing 12 months later is almost indefensible. I don't even know where to start with it.
Listen,
not even going to talk contract?
Like he said, "Oh yeah, we'll reach out, to the reps or whatever," but it doesn't sound good. And it
doesn't sound promising.
And I could see Nick Chubb being that he works so damn hard, and he works harder than just about anybody. I could see Nick Chubb coming back and having a decent year next year. I don't think you'll ever see like 2018 or, even 2021 or 20, but I could see him coming back. Like the ideal thing for me would be you bring Nick Chubb back on like a 1-year, $4 million deal, and you draft a kid. This is a deep running back class. It's loaded. No reason to cut ties. Like, you need some stability. Now, if Nick wants out, that's a completely different thing, but I don't his camp's not putting that out there anywhere.
Yeah, I think his 1,000-yard seasons are behind him. I don't think we'll see another 1,000-yard season from Nick Chubb. But I do agree with you. I think in a running back class where I love both of those Ohio State running backs, Amari and Hampton's a great running back that'll definitely be available in round 2. You would think maybe he ends up getting taken in round 1. But like you said, just a great running back.
Quinshawn, Travion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the 2 Ohio State running backs, of
Right.
course. Yeah, absolutely. So, you get one of those, you pair them with the Nick Chubb that's going to show them the ropes of this is how you be the professional in the locker room and on the field and embrace a city and become a fan favorite. You split those carries 50-50, eventually becomes 60-40, 70-30, and then you obviously phase Nick out once he gets older. But I think that's a phenomenal plan to go into the season with. It's unfortunate that Andrew Berry doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, I don't see things a lot of the way he's seen them lately, but that's, not here.
For a couple years now.
Yeah.
A few years now.
So, listen, and this all could be, combine talk. There's a lot of rumors and a lot of bull crap that surfaces here at the combine and a lot of smoke screens going on. Maybe they do have something going on with Nick Chubb, but I don't know. I mean, to me, this would be a no-brainer. 1 year, $4 or $5 million deal. Let it be. Doesn't seem like you said it's going to go that way, but if it's a smoke screen, that's all we can hope for at this
I don't think
point.
it's a smoke screen at all because what leverage would they have to send any smoke screens anywhere? You're a 3-14 football team threatening or telling your fan base their favorite player might not be coming back to the team. I think that's one of the worst smoke screens you could do.
And then the other
for the position
and
that
your
they're
other
in right now.
your other favorited player has no interest in being here, and you're holding them hostage. Now,
Yes, exactly. So what leverage do Andrew Berry and management have in order to dangle Nick Chubb in front of our faces?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
They have no leverage. So I don't think it's a smokescreen at all. I think they genuinely like, yeah, Nick, test it out. If no teams offer you, come on back. We'll take you on. I think it's highly doubtful he's a Cleveland Brown next year.
Yeah, I guess I think you're probably right. Now, to me, a lot of people were criticizing them for the handling of the Myles Garrett thing. They could keep saying publicly they want to keep him, but behind closed doors, they should be overseeing a giant bidding war between everybody. That's what I think they should do.
I think so too.
You should just keep driving that price up to a point where someone pays something stupid for him.
I think they should absolutely do that as well. Now, coming out and saying that, if them and Myles genuinely aren't on the same page, I do not want to go into the season with this. I do not want to go into the season with this hanging over our heads that the best player on our team, the best player outside of Joe Thomas, maybe even past Joe Thomas that we've seen in a Cleveland Browns uniform in our lifetime is going in holding a grudge and maybe holding out, maybe not playing, maybe just refusing to show up to stuff. It could potentially get very ugly. And I don't want to go into the season. There's already such a huge cloud over this organization right now, nationally and locally. There can't be anything else that's held over us. Do right by Myles at this point, unless they do go after and show him that there is a potential for a winning season these next couple of years.
But the way he's dragging them through the media, it doesn't really seem to be that he has any interest like right now.
No.
But it's still only March. Like these guys don't strip for real, put the chin
Not
straps
even March
on.
yet, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's still the mid to end February or end of February.
It's the end of February.
So these guys don't put the chin straps on and hit for real until September. Like there's a lot of crap that could happen between now and then.
Yeah, there is, and which kind of leads us to, I believe, our next topic of things that could turn that relationship around is the quarterback market. We recently just found out within the last week that the Rams have made Matt Stafford available because of the money that he wants, and it's just not. They're one of those teams too that over the last few years have done, or over the last 5+ years have done the Andrew Berry thing, and that's just push the can 4 or 5 years down the road, and then we'll worry about the money. Well, now that time's come.
Right.
For all the restructures that they did, and now they potentially can't afford Matt Stafford. And Stafford's got maybe 1, maybe 2 years at max left in him. So, depending on what that costs, I doubt it would be a first rounder. I don't know if it would even be a second. I think we're probably looking at a 3 or a 4 to get that done. But what money would the Browns have to take on the amount of money they're already eating with?
And that's the problem. And I know people are excited about the Matt Stafford idea, and yeah, on paper, it looks real good to bring in a Super Bowl winning quarterback to a franchise that has no quarterback stability at all.
And the
then,
Browns have done that before. They went the Jake Delhomme route that actually went to a Super Bowl, and the Joe Flacco route, which was a successful
right. But
thing,
to me,
yeah.
they're in no position to take on money of Matt Stafford. Like, and I don't know how that works out because the Rams are, like you just pointed out, are in no position to eat money. The Browns are in no position to eat money. So him coming here, to me, I don't see a way it works out. I can't put two and two together. Like, I just don't see any way that Matt Stafford is going to be on the Cleveland Browns roster next year unless, like, somehow you got the Rams to do the Broncos and Pittsburgh Russell Wilson sort of scenario where they just outright, cut him, eat all that money, and then Matt Stafford signs the 1 year, $2 million deal here because he's already making his $30 million from the Rams.
Well,
contract.
that's the exact scenario. I mean, that's going to be the Kirk Cousins thing. That's probably going to happen. Is he's going to end up doing the Russell Wilson?
He's going to have
most
to
likely, yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, I mean, if it's not the Browns, where do you think Stafford actually ends up? I mean, it was reported that the Giants, Raiders, and I think Steelers were the other three teams that had at least shown interest or were expected to show interest. I don't know. I don't know out of those 3 4
I would
teams.
say the Steelers make a lot of sense because they have a lot of cap room. They could eat that money with no problem. They have. It seems like all indications and reports coming out of Pittsburgh are they have no interest in a reunion with Russell Wilson.
Okay.
So I would assume the Steelers. The Giants, I think they probably have some cap room.
You would imagine, right?
But I don't know because they have had to pay a lot of their young stars and stuff. But they also, I mean, I don't know. Are they still eating? They're still eating some Daniel Jones money this year
because they only signed him like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but
there was
a
4 year. There was a lot of guarantees though, in a quarterback contract there typically is.
But I believe a lot of that money was front loaded. So they paid those 2 years, so these years shouldn't be as much.
Okay, I didn't see the layout of it.
So I know it was a four-year, $160 million deal
right.
that I think was pretty heavily front loaded. So the Giants might be in a position where they can do that. The Raiders should have boatload of cap room because their only quarterback that they're paying any legit money to, not non-rookie contract money. I mean, they have the Aiden O'Connell rookie contract, but I want to say they have Gardner Minshew for this year, but it's a reasonable cap number of like $12 million. It's nothing that's going to kill you.
Yeah, he's a backup quarterback. So
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think a lot of this stuff will, get answered over the next month or so. It's still very much in the hypothetical phase. But I mean, to me, I'm at the point right now with the Browns where like anything Andrew Berry can say to the media is not going to cheer me up as a Browns fan. Like,
no, we gotta see something actually happen. They've been talking to us for 5 years about how great their vision is. So unless and they're 3-14, 5 years into their 5-year plan.
Yeah, their 5-year plan, and we could, I know that I've repeated myself many, many episodes, but their 5-year plan was to trade for a quarterback who could not play, give him the most guaranteed money at the time in NFL history, and then watch him literally become a total
dumpster fire
pumpkin.
I saw somebody tweet something about that the other day, the Houston Texans highlights of Deshaun, and they said, I genuinely do not know what happened to this guy. But like, what happened? I mean, obviously we know what happened, but like, how does play diminish that much?
Well, I think, and listen, we have rehashed this so many times on this podcast, but the quick cliff notes to me are he didn't care. He got the money. And when there's that much going on outside of football and you're that long of a layoff, it was too long of a layoff.
And you've got nothing to work for. You're guaranteed all that money. You've got nothing to actually work for.
You're guaranteed all that money. You're right. You got nothing to work for. The layoff in itself was wrong. Obviously, when you have that much going on and your mental health has got to be just shot at that point.
Oh, I think we saw the absolute collapse of his mental health when the Achilles injury happened against the Bengals. When he was carted off and you saw him sobbing and put the towel over his head, I think that was the absolute diminished of.
And we talked about that back at when it happened, back at the time, many, many episodes ago. But to me, again, I mean, I don't want to continue to rehash it because it just makes me sick.
Yeah.
And, how bad he is, how awful of a teammate, everything. And listen, you can sit there and listen, whether it's Andrew Barry, whether it was Kevin Stefanski, whether it was Jimmy Haslam, and a lot of people seem to want to pin it on Jimmy now. That's the latest thing. We'll never truly know who at the end of the day said, maybe Paul DePodesta. He always seems to slide right under the carpet, always sliding right under the rug.
Depot.
But again, no matter who it was, you all are responsible for that move, and you all made the worst trade in sports history, and every one of you owns a little piece of that because you're all the decision makers, you're the power people in that building. So how can we sit here in February 2025 as Browns fans and just have confidence in you to do anything right moving forward? I mean, that's the type of move where you question the entire talent evaluation process from the scouts all the way on to the top. And
absolutely, you do. Especially,
sorry,
no, you're good. You're
keep
good.
Going, and so them going to the combine, I'm like, they thought Deshaun Watson's. They don't know what the hell to look for.
Dude, they've cut 3rd round picks 1 year into a tenure. What was it? Siaki Ika.
Yeah,
they cut 1 year into his tenure.
But he was no good anyway.
But that's what I'm saying. You're drafting these guys in the 3rd round. We're cutting them after a year. They don't know what they're doing. And if you draft a quarterback this year, which it looks like they're probably going to, our last 4 first-round picks have been spent on quarterbacks, if you include the Deshaun deal.
Yeah.
Sickening. It's absolutely sickening.
So let's get there. Let's briefly touch on it before we shift gears into the Cavaliers. But the Shedeur Sanders stuff, I see you said a source told Tony Grossi that Shedeur Sanders, quote, thinks he's going to play for the Cleveland Browns.
Yep, that's what ESPN Cleveland tweeted that. Source told Tony Grossi.
We're still in silly season. So how much of that's true? Andrew Barry did speak very highly of Shedeur Sanders today. But also at these type of press events when the guy's, undoubted going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, the general manager who holds the number 2 overall pick in the draft is not going to go up there and say, well, yeah, we think he stinks.
Well, also, would they say that about anybody? Even if they were low on somebody, even if they thought Shedeur Sanders was going to be a major bust, do you think they'd ask Andrew Barry a question and Barry would say, oh, he's awful?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Even if he thought he was bad, he has to say stuff like that
right.
about every player.
Right. So they're going to speak highly of him. Now, listen, back when we started this, at the end of the season, we had talked a little bit about Shedeur Sanders. I was totally like, no way, no how, don't want it. I'm slightly a little bit more open to the idea of it, but I'm still not like thinking this guy's going to be a home run. I think the quarterback class stinks.
What has not changed your mind, but what has grown you open to that idea?
The fact that they desperately need a quarterback. They haven't been able to find one in a quarter century outside of a 4-year run by Baker Mayfield. And I don't see them. I don't trust the guys making the decisions, but at some point, not even the Barry tenure, but the last quarter century, at some point, don't you think they're going to be able to get it right? I mean, and you got to keep drafting and drafting and drafting.
Yeah, but how long did it take for us to get it right? We got Baker. We got a top 15 quarterback in the league, I would say safely, top 15 probably. You're not going to draft a top 5 quarterback. Like I feel like that's what they're waiting for. Like it's not always going to happen that way.
No, it's not.
You can win with a top 10 quarterback. You can win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. It's been done. You can go to a Super Bowl with the Jared Goff. It's been done.
Oh, so you're 100%.
You don't need these electrifying Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons, Pat Mahomes. They help. But it's not the end-all, be-all.
They do expedite the process greatly. Now, I saw that today that Adam Schefter, who's as plugged in as anyone, said he thinks no doubt Cleveland selects a quarterback.
I saw that, yeah.
Okay, so listen, do I want them to draft a quarterback? I was so against it just because I don't trust the decision makers. But at this point, like, there's no other way out of this. Like, thinking about the other realistic options, Matt Stafford to me is not realistic at this point. I really don't believe he is, and I kind of touched on that a couple minutes ago. Kirk Cousins is realistic, and there's a relationship with Kevin, obviously, from Minnesota. That's realistic. The same scenario that will repeat itself as Russell Wilson, Denver, Pittsburgh,
Yep.
Kirk Cousins, Atlanta, Cleveland.
Right.
That's realistic, but how much does Kirk have left to give? I don't know. Coming off, 2 years ago, an Achilles at his age, that's questionable too. And then the other options, look, I might get a lot of hate for this. I wouldn't mind them bringing in a Daniel Jones.
I wouldn't hate it either. And you know why? Because you mentioned earlier that they're desperate for a quarterback. So if they don't get one of these, if they don't get the Kirk Cousins, if they don't get the Matt Stafford, that they got to take a quarterback at 2, I completely disagree. If you draft a quarterback at 2 because you're desperate, you get the New York Giants Daniel Jones. You get a quarterback like that. When you're desperate and just draft one because there's one there. That's what happens. You get the Trey Lance because the Niners were desperate for a quarterback. They traded all that up. You get the Zach Wilsons because you're desperate. You don't love those guys. You're trading up because you're desperate. You're drafting those guys because you're desperate, and you're trying to shortcut something when it's a process. If your guy's not there, draft Abdul Carter, draft Travis Hunter, and make sure that you have weapons there or have help there when your savior comes. Don't get desperate. You get desperate, you're going to lose your job next year.
These guys are probably already going to lose their. Just what the hell's the difference to them? And so
they were in the playoffs last year, man. But this regime got us a playoff win 4 or 5 years ago, and they went to the playoffs last year. They had a down year, their worst year in their tenure, obviously. You cannot draft a bust. You cannot draft a bust quarterback at 2 this year. If you think these guys are both busts, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, don't draft them. If you think Cam Ward's a stud, Shedeur Sanders is a bust, and Cam Ward gets taken at 1, do not take Shedeur. Draft your guy. Don't draft a guy.
Yeah, I have no patience though. Like and that's just me.
But that's our loser mindset though. That's us knowing this organization.
But as a Browns fan, how much more, like, they literally, the last, okay, you take Baker was pretty good and was a franchise guy, but the last franchise quarterback this town had was Bernie Kosar. He's going to be,
I get it.
Bernie has not played since the 90s.
Okay, so he hasn't played since the 90s. We got theoretically our guy 25, 30 years later in Baker is at least what we thought. And you think we're just going to draft our franchise guy 5 years after, 6, 7 years after that, just easily? We waited 25 plus years for a new guy.
I don't know.
I don't think we're getting one 8 years later. We're not the Colts. We can't go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, I can make the argument. Look, I can make the argument that they should, and I kind of just did make that argument. But listen, to me right now, it's all a bunch of hogwash. I don't really believe a lot. Everybody's saying stuff. You're hearing things from the combine, this, that. I don't really know what they're going to do, but anything they do, I'm going to think it's the wrong decision because they've led me to believe that. And yeah. I have zero trust. Look,
and you know what's funny? This regime didn't draft Baker. They didn't draft Chubb. They didn't draft Myles Garrett. They didn't draft They didn't draft Denzel Ward. They didn't draft the foundation of this entire team or what this entire team was built upon when they got it. They haven't built any of it. They brought in you know what their big acquisition was? It was Jedrick Wills. That was their jump onto the scene moment.
Well, I could make the argument. The only ones I can make the argument that they brought in, there's some guys they've brought in that have been good. Like, I can make the argument for Jack Conklin. Yes, he's been hurt a lot, but when he's been healthy, he's been very effective.
Sure.
I can make the argument that Grant Delpit's been a pretty decent safety.
He's been a great safety.
JOK is probably their saving grace, and guess what? He probably won't play football again. So,
he might not, and Newsom's been what he is. He's been an average to slightly above average corner.
But yeah. So to me, I have zero faith in them. So, okay, let's say just because I'm so beaten down as a Browns fan, whether they draft, if they draft Abdul Carter, I'm going to think he's going to be a bust. If they draft Shedeur, I'm thinking he's going to be a bust. I have no faith, no matter what they do, that they're going to get this right. So I'm at that point where, hey, you guys do what you think's right. I'll sit here and I'll keep rooting for you. I always have, but I have no faith that they're going to do the right thing, and nor should anybody else, really.
You know what else doesn't give me any faith in this regime either in terms of being able to spot talent in college is it is agreed upon nationally that Travis Hunter's a corner and you can throw him in there for some offensive plays. Andrew Berry had the audacity today, Tuesday, to say that Travis Hunter is primarily a receiver.
Yeah, I heard that. I mean,
It is agreed upon nationally that he is going to be a secondary player and rotate occasionally in on offense. And Andrew Berry just does not see what 99% of talent evaluators see.
See, to me, I think Andrew Berry takes a lot of the heat. I think this Paul DePodesta character is pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes, and the Haslam's are think he's like God's gift to sports.
Yeah, he's lasted how many regimes now?
He has been here for 9 years. Nobody knows what he does. No, it's absurd.
He'll occasionally show up at Huntington Bank Field. Occasionally,
he appears out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
gives you a spreadsheet with 8,000 numbers, and then goes back into San Diego. I mean, it's a joke. But anyway, that's.
You think he might be the mastermind behind the Deshaun deal you were alluding to earlier, huh?
I think Paul DePodesta had a hell of a lot more to do with that than anybody realizes.
I don't think that's, you know what? I think that could be looked at as a bold take, but I don't think it is. I mean, he has to be doing something to have a job this long.
I don't know. And he's paid very handsomely to do
of course
whatever
he
the
is.
heck it is that he does. And I've heard some things, from working there, obviously, and I'm not going to say those, out loud because I don't know if they're 100% factual, and I don't want to, start spread. We like to tell the truth on this podcast, and I don't want to start saying stuff that I don't know 100% to be valid.
Yeah, truth or opinions on the podcast. Yeah, we don't. No falses here.
I'm not going to start telling rumors that I heard this, I heard that. Listen, I've heard some things, and that's. Some very interesting things, some that I've discussed with you, not in front of camera or on air. But I'm telling you right now that I think that guy makes a lot more decisions. And isn't it funny, though, that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they go to face that podium. When was the last time Paul DePodesta did a press conference?
I can't remember ever watching
That's all you need to know.
No, I know. I can't remember. I mean, he's been here since I was 18. And I watch the press conferences, man. I'm locked into this team, so I cannot remember ever clicking on a Paul DePodesta press conference ever.
Once in a great while, every couple training camps, he'll do one, but it's not very often. He just slithers right on back to San Diego.
Right back to Cali.
Yep. So, all right, let's talk. Let's switch gears. Just a little bit of Brown stuff there. Like I said, it was a couple noteworthy items from the AB gathering at the combine with the media today that I thought, like you said, were important for us to touch on. So
yeah, for sure.
It lasts a little bit longer than it should have, but hey, that's okay. Who's keeping time besides us?
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, on to the Cavaliers, Kevin. They go ahead and smash Orlando tonight, and they are undefeated in the era of DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, it's 8 straight now, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly from what we're seeing, it looks like DeAndre Hunter is exactly what we needed. I was telling you, I've told you off air before. I mean, it's obviously if you're a loyal listener to the podcast, you know very well how much of a fan I am of DeAndre Hunter. For what OG Anunoby went for what Mikal Bridges went for, DeAndre Hunter is the same, up there with the defense and the 3-point shooting, and you could argue he creates shots better than those two, and he went for maybe a third, maybe a quarter of what they went for. It was an absolute steal. He's fit in seamlessly here, and I couldn't love this fit more for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did sit on the podcast when the whole city and fan base was just head over heels, including me, for Cam Johnson. You had brought up DeAndre Hunter a couple of weeks prior to anybody really else saying it on this podcast. That's the kind of good stuff you get if you stay tuned here.
To CSR.
Yeah, to the CSR. But anyhow, no, I'll agree with you. DeAndre Hunter has made a difference. Now, the big argument, he's coming off the bench right now. What do you see it there? Do you like him off the bench, or would you prefer him to be in the starting 5?
See, when he got here, I thought it was just lock and load, put him right at the 3. You go Garland, Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley, Allen, and you set it and forget it, right? And now I've completely switched my tune on that. I think he should be the 6th man with Ty Jerome. I think they should just be co-6th men at this point. Clearly, their chemistry is working from their days back at Virginia, clearly. And I love both of them coming off the bench together with the chemistry they already had prior as Cavaliers. And Max Strus just fits in. You can still play Max Strus only 20 minutes. You can play Hunter 30. Doesn't mean that Strus has to play more just because he's a starter. I just think if it ain't broke, don't fix it right now with that starting lineup. And Hunter's been great as a sixth man all year. He's been great as a sixth man for us. He's been great playing defense for us. And I love him and Ty Jerome being the first off the bench. I think it's been working great, and I think they got to stick with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
A wise person once told me many years ago, and I still believe it true to this day. A lot has changed in the NBA, but this adage I don't believe has truly ever changed. The starting lineup is so overrated. Who starts, who's in, who's out of the five. Don't pay attention to that. Pay attention who's on the floor at the end of the basketball game. And who's been on the floor at the end of the basketball game most times since he's been here? DeAndre Hunter,
absolutely. And I think the Cavs agree with us. I think the Cavs agree with us, and I think this is becoming a popular opinion across the fan base as well to keep him off the bench. I just completely lost my train of thought where I was going with that. I apologize. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, well, anyway, I mean, no. We were talking about him finishing the game to end the game.
Right.
So that's important, you know. It does.
Absolutely.
The starting lineup thing is so overblown and overrated.
Yeah,
you know. And so if they want to start Max Strus, God bless him. I just don't want Max Strus out there the final 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter.
No, unless he's about to heave a shot from past half court, then I'll want him out there for the offensive possession.
Against the Dallas Mavericks on a Tuesday in February?
Yeah. Well, Luka's still got to be on the team for that to happen.
But no, honestly, I agree with you. You know, if they want to keep Hunter coming off the bench, and they may change that in due time, but right now they ain't going to change. Kenny's not going to change anything because right now you're talking about 8-0 since the guys come here. Now they started him one game, but that was only because Strus was down.
That was his first game here.
Right, Strus was down.
And my point just came back to me, actually.
Go ahead.
My point just came back to me. So I think the Cavs agree with us in the sense of keeping DeAndre coming off the bench because when Garland was ruled out, I thought they would just they would move Strus to the 2, Hunter at the 3, and then obviously
You're
Mobley.
speaking of Sunday night's game.
Yeah, Sunday night's game. And what did they do? They moved Okoro into the starting lineup and still continue to bring Hunter off the bench. So I think it's almost set in stone right now that Hunter's going to be on the bench at least for the remainder of the year. We'll see what happens in future years. Obviously, he's under contract for a couple years after. So we'll see what happens after. But I think for this year, it's going to be Hunter coming off the bench every game.
Yeah, and that's fine. And like I said, Kenny might change that come playoff time if things, shift in a different direction. But right now, the vibes, everything's magnificent around this team. So what are you going to change anything for?
Exactly.
There's zero reason to do so.
No need.
And again, that they dominated again tonight. Now, I unfortunately was unable to watch the game as we record the slate Tuesday, as we mentioned. You did get to see the game. More of the same, huh? Ty Jerome just continues keeping on.
Yeah, I got here. I didn't see too much of the game. We had the game on. It came over and producer Eric and I were doing some stuff around the studio. So we had the game on. I didn't see too much of it. Honestly, it seemed like, we looked away, did a couple things for 10, 15 minutes, looked back, and the Cavs were up by, what was it there, like 25 points or something already. So, we checked in periodically. I didn't see too much of the game, but it was nice to see the Cavs with another dominant performance. And they're just a team that just casually blows teams out. Like, it doesn't seem like they're doing anything too special out there. It's just great ball movement, great defense, and they're up by 25 points in the first half and end up winning the game by 15-20. And every single game, it feels like.
I know it's the regular season the following year, so a lot of variables have changed, but nice to see a team that they struggled so mightily with in the playoffs last year in the Orlando Magic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And obviously the Magic weren't fully healthy, but neither were the Cavs. Garland didn't play tonight, and Cavs showed up, and it was especially to play in Orlando like that, because that was where it was every home game. It was every home game the first round last year.
Right.
It was Cavs won in Cleveland, Magic won in Orlando. So it was nice to go into Orlando and get that win.
Yeah, absolutely. And also watching Sunday night's game against the Grizzlies, just, great back and forth affair, two highest scoring teams in the NBA. And they went at it, and it was a good physical contest. And I know that, a lot of folks nationally had their eyes on that one as it was nationally televised too. The defensive player of the year battle, I thought Evan Mobley took the upper hand against Jaren Jackson on Sunday night.
It wasn't even close. Yeah, Mobley dominated him. Absolutely dominated him.
Yeah, so Jaren struggled, got into early foul trouble, and then played most of the fourth quarter with 5 fouls. So, Kevin, I know you had mentioned this to me the other night when we were watching the game together. Do you think that Evan Mobley should solidified win his first Defensive Player of the Year award? Like, you think he's done enough thus far to do it?
I would say he should be the favorite over Jaren Jackson right now. Now we still have 20+ games to go. Anything could change in that amount of time. But I would say he absolutely should have the edge. Now, I think I'm worried that when it comes to and I'm going to actually shout out Danny Cunningham. Was listening to him earlier this morning, and he had actually made this point about the actual team defensive stats and how good the team defense is and how that could actually translate to the Defensive Player of the Year award. If the Grizzlies have a better team defense and they're ranked, let's say 7-8 spots ahead of the Cavs, even though the numbers aren't there, does Jaren Jackson get it over Evan Mobley?
Potentially.
I mean, we see awards work like that all the time. They gave James Harden the award over LeBron, MVP, I should say, in 2018 because the Rockets won more than the Cavs, even though LeBron dominated him in every category.
Right. And so sometimes these awards are very tainted. And, not saying, I shouldn't say tainted because, like, the guys who get them usually deserve to at least be in the conversation, but sometimes
they're subjective. They
yes,
can be.
I should have said not tainted. Bias was the word I was looking for.
Biased, yeah, sure.
The voters who vote upon these things, they have their guys, they have their relationships, and that's often how we see it goes. But I think Evan, unbiasedly has probably done enough. Now, of course, I say unbiasedly, but it is a little bit of bias because I'm not sitting here professing to watch Jaren Jackson on a night in and night out basis.
Yeah, and if you've got the video on, I mean, look what we got set up here. Of course, we're a little bit biased. We got Cavs gear everywhere right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I'm not professing to say I watch Jaren Jackson on a night in and night out basis. I watch Evan Mobley, though, on a pretty close to night in to night out basis, and I know how important he is defensively to this team, and he is, to me, the linchpin of the entire Cavalier defense.
Oh, it's no question. It's no question. When he gets switched onto somebody, and I've been known since Mobley's come into the league to not be I shouldn't say not be a huge fan, but I've been known to be a very big critic of Evan Mobley. But yeah, when he gets switched onto a guard, I don't feel worried at all. I remember being at a game a couple years back when Damian Lillard was still a part of the Trailblazers, and Mobley got switched onto Lillard, and I wasn't even concerned.
Right.
He keeps lockstep with him. If he gets beat by a little bit, he's longer than them. He still gets the block, or at least can contest it, and it usually leads to a miss. He's an unbelievable defender, and I think the best defender I can safely say that we've ever seen in a Cavalier uniform.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even his offensive game has obviously come a long way this year, no question about it. But where I think he's getting more national attention is because that offensive game has improved so vastly. But the defense has been like this. It's gotten better and better.
Yeah.
But the defense has always had a good baseline of really talented defender right from when he basically jumped onto the scene.
I would say as soon as he stepped onto the court his first game, he was already a top 10 defender in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could argue he's the best defender in the NBA right now, obviously, given he's the favorite right now for Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, and for how big and tall and lanky he is, he's pretty darn fast too and pretty quick.
He's got long strides.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like 10 strides for him, it looks like, for him to get from baseline to baseline.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last Cavalier point here we want to hit on. Big matchup on Friday night against the Boston Celtics. Yeah. Cavaliers 1-2. This is the final time the top two teams in the East will meet this year. Friday night, ESPN prime time at the TD Garden in Boston. Cavs have obviously struggled to win there. The one game they did win this year was in Cleveland. That is where they took their first loss of the season after starting 15-0 this year.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the game on Friday? And I know it's only a regular season game, and a lot of times, the players are going to dumb it down and stuff, but I think a lot of folks' eyes will be on this one. And we know that the Cavaliers, whether they want to say it to the media or not, they've circled this one on the calendar.
Oh, they absolutely have. It's the one team that they can't seem to get past, outside of the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Celtics. It's the Celtics every single time. So it's now this is the DeAndre Hunter game. This is where I want to see how the matchups work now. because this is basically this is what you went out and got him for.
Yep.
Was for this team specifically. So I'm looking forward to at that 8-minute marker when Strus checks out of the game in the first quarter and Hunter comes in. I'm really interested to see how that's going to play, and I hope that it plays out how we're envisioning it. If not, I'm not going to panic because it's still, game 7 with DeAndre Hunter, game 6, 7, or 8, somewhere in there.
8-0.
So, yeah, well, they're 8-0 in their last 8. I can't remember when DeAndre joined.
Yeah, I
think it's game 6 or 7, something like that.
not important to what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
not important, but either way, it's it's still short into the DeAndre Hunter period, so Cavs would still have 20-plus games and the playoffs, obviously, to prepare for Boston. So I'm not going to panic after Friday, but it would be nice to see DeAndre go out there and do exactly what we got him to do.
Yeah, and just don't go up there and get your butt whooped. That's the big
Right.
thing for me. Like the first time they got off to a super slow start there, and you could tell they were a little panicky and a little nervous. I'm hoping Darius Garland's back on Friday because he's
Same.
particularly struggled very much to play in Boston, it seems to me. So I'm very, very zeroed in on how Garland's going to perform if he's available on Friday. And I hope he's back so we can see this matchup as close to full strength as it can be.
Yeah.
But
does Boston have anybody out? Any key guys out? I don't think so.
I think they're pretty much rocking fully healthy right now.
Which, this is sixth favorite for sixth man of the year in Peyton Pritchard right now against two other favorites for sixth man of the year in Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter.
Ty Jerome, I know we've talked about it before, but the revelation, this guy,
unbelievable. Your namesake.
yeah, I guess, yeah. This guy, nobody besides maybe Kenny Atkinson and Ty Jerome himself could say they saw this coming. Who the heck saw that?
I don't.
We forgot about the guy last year. He had ankle surgery, missed virtually the entire season. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's still on the roster. Okay, well, who cares?
Well, and you know what's funny? He's doing stuff that we didn't even bring him in to do. We did not bring him in to just carry a team out there and score 10 straight points.
Carry a second unit offensively.
We literally signed him to be almost a true point guard. Pass the ball, play good defense, and this guy's just cashing threes left and right. He's finishing at the rim. He's getting and ones whenever he wants, it seems like. He's been an absolute revelation. It stinks that this is probably going to be the only year we're going to be able to enjoy it. But it's been a heck of a ride with him.
Going to get paid this offseason.
Unless he wants a hometown discount to stay with DeAndre Hunter.
I don't think he could pass that up, man.
This is the only big payday he's going to probably
I was just
going to
say, when is Ty Jerome getting paid
He's
again?
not getting, what is he, 27, 28? He gets a 4-year deal, carry him to just 31, 32 years old.
He's not getting
another one.
No.
He's not getting another one.
So go get your money, but before you do that, help lead us to that ultimate title, man. Because
help us get the Larry O'Brien.
Yep, because I'll tell you what, I haven't felt this confident in the Cavalier team in a while. Even the last year LeBron was here, they struggled the first round against the Pacers, and it was done.
Well, you knew they weren't going to beat that Warriors team, that 2018 team.
I haven't felt this confident in the Cavaliers team, and probably since they
10
won
years.
Yeah, close to 10 years. I truly am very confident, and I feel good if they play Boston in a 7-game series. But they have so much more ahead of them before that. They've got to take care of their Eastern Conference first round and semis matchup. And you know what? I'm not going to go crazy until they get there because they still have a lot to prove. But I will just say I feel very, very good as I sit here today in February.
I feel very good about them getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Until it's done, I cannot pick them to beat Boston. Until they do it, I cannot. It's like, I feel like it's almost like picking the Browns to beat the Steelers. Until it happens, I'm not going to feel confident in it.
Right.
Yeah, Boston's a tough team, man. They still shoot lights out. Although their three-point percentage has dipped a little bit since last year, but they still shoot lights out. They still play phenomenal defense. And Kristaps, I still think, is the biggest difference maker, or difference matchup, for lack of a better term. He's the worst matchup for us. He's a hard guy to stop with Allen covering him. So, I can't pick us to beat Boston until it's done.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to wait to officially, pick down the line and see if it even gets there. But I will say, The confidence I have in this team is near the top, like as high as it's been in a decade, like you said. I mean, I think they got the coach. I think Donovan's stepping into his own as a number one superstar. I think they got the bench scoring, which we know becomes a huge deal in the playoffs with Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter. I mean, I just think they're the total package. I got no two ways about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, and you know what's funny? We've talked about actually multiple times whether they're reminiscent of the 2015 Warriors or the Hawks, and I think it's actually closer to the closer to the Warriors than the Hawks. I used to think otherwise, and the reason I say that is because this Cavs team has the star power that 2015, 2016 Warriors team did. They don't have the top 5 player in the league, but they've got one of those guys that if you need a bucket, he's going to get you that bucket. They have the defensive force that's down there in Evan Mobley. They have the rim protector in Allen. They have a true point guard that's going to make the right decisions most of the time in Garland, and they have the depth. That was the whole Warriors thing at that time, was the strength in numbers. They had much pride. They prided themselves in that, and this is exactly what this Cavs team's doing.
I agree with you, and I think the biggest thing too, we've all been talking about the Evan Mobley leap. Well, it has happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it has happened.
He's an all-star.
And, he's going to be counted on offensively throughout this playoff run to be a legit scorer on the offensive end. And, I think if he's able to be that guy, then Evan Mobley is a matchup, problem for Boston, I think.
Yeah, I love him following around Tatum if he can.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because those arm bars that Tatum does, the jump backs, the step backs that he does, Mobley's got the length. Mobley's quick enough.
So so you think you do Hunter to match up Brown right now?
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Listen, unless they want Mobley on Kristaps, which might make the most sense because of how versatile he is on the perimeter. But then who's Jared Allen guarding?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like it's a tough spot. That's why I say that Kristaps matchup's the worst for us. He's a tough guy to game plan for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, we got plenty of more time to analyze that, and that's all coming, and that'll all be fun. But we'll see what happens on Friday night, and we'll react to it next week's episode. Or no, we will not probably be reacting to that next week.
No, we won't.
Yeah. So we'll get to that at the end of the program, but a little housekeeping note on that.
Yeah.
Let's switch real quick to the Guardians. First of all, we want to give our condolences to the Dolan family, as Larry Dolan did pass away yesterday. Really hasn't been, the front man. His son Paul's been really running the operation since 2013. And, I've been extremely critical of the Dolans, consistently. And that's not going to change. I'm not, just because the guy passed away, I'm not going to pretend that I'm their biggest fans, but I will give him this. Since he bought the team in 2000, since the family bought the team, he did consistently put out a good product on the field without spending a lot of money. And, he hired smart people. He let them do their jobs. And unlike, the Haslams have had a tendency to do, he has not meddled much. And overall, he was very active in the community. And, I could say a lot about the things that I wish he would have done or could have done. But overall, I think he was a good steward of the baseball team, besides the one glaring weakness of spending money.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad when anybody passes away, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, obviously condolences to the family. I hate to see it, but appreciative of just what the Dolans have done in general for this city, honestly. We talk up and down about, like you were just saying, about the money spending and stuff, but they have given us the most consistent team in this city, and honestly, we're thankful for it, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wonder, Larry, really hasn't been involved in a long time. Paul's been the front man since 2013, and right. I wonder, with all of this taking place now, if this does lead to maybe an expedite of the blitzer process taking, maybe happening faster. And that all we'll see what happens. But obviously, condolences to Larry Dolan, who one thing I'll say, he was a Clevelander through and through. Yeah. He tried to buy the Browns. He tried to own a professional. That was his lifelong goal. He got to achieve it by owning the Cleveland Indians, who eventually became the Guardians. So good for him. He was he wore CLE across the chest proudly. So again,
as all of us Clevelanders do.
So good for him. So, condolences to the whole Dolan family, and the whole Guardians organization is obviously, the top man has fallen and passed away. So, moving on the field today, spring training stuff. We don't put too much into these numbers. I will say Stephen Kwan has been excellent in the early going. Carlos Santana has got off to a little bit of a slower start, but he's always been historically a slow starter, and it's just hard for me to put anything into these games. Kind of cool to see Travis Bazzana hit an absolute moonshot today.
Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to spring training. I've just kind of seen how they've been playing. I haven't watched too much of the games or anything like that, but only thing I saw was Travis Bazzana. That was awesome to see him get a. It was a 3-run shot, I want to say. Two outs in the 9th inning too. Yeah, which was kind of cool. Kind of a clutch moment.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was
kind of in spring training, as clutch as you can get right now.
As clutch as you can be in the Cactus League, I guess. Yeah. I mean, they still lost by 3 runs, more or less.
It got them back in the game. It got it back to a save opportunity.
Right. I know some people online were freaking out because Luis Ortiz got rocked today. Here's the most important thing.
Yeah, he got shellacked.
Did Luis Ortiz come out of the game and he said his elbow feels good, his arm feels good, move on to the next one?
He was throwing 98 too.
Yeah, the fastball is at 98. Sure, for all we know, he could have been messing around with something today, or he could have been, you cannot put anything.
Yeah, they could be trying something out in practice. It's like, all right, yeah, maybe try this in the first inning and see how it goes. Just get shellacked.
You cannot put anything really into these Cactus League games. I'm sorry. Or
no, you can't.
Or in Florida, you can't put much into the Grapefruit League games. They're fun to go to for the fans because they give you an opportunity to get up close and personal with the players who don't really, the veteran guys who have a secure spot on the roster. Days they're off, that's the most autographs and fan pictures and all that you're going to get all year. You're right up in there. I mean, once these guys get in go time for the regular season. Now, if Luis Ortiz gets absolutely shelled in the Royals series,
I'm going to be a little bit worried.
I'm going to be worried and say, oh boy. Or if he continues to get shelled the entire spring, but his first Cactus League start getting shelled today is the most important thing to me. Does the elbow feel good? Yep.
Yes.
Does the arm feel good? Yep. Does the shoulder feel good? Okay, let's move on to the next one. So,
now, I got a question for you now. I mean, shifting gears completely, but has DeLauder played at all? Very random question, but
no. Well, they've only played a
couple games right now.
They played 4 through today's recording. They've played 4. No, he has not. But you have to remember he's coming off another foot.
It's a broken
surgery,
foot, right? Yeah.
So they're gonna work him slow. I wouldn't.
I want to see him this year. I want to see him up this year bad.
I
really
agree.
Bad.
I'm curious to see. They tended to take the long, cautious approach with injuries. That's just the way the franchise goes. They don't really rush anybody. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him for a couple more weeks of Cactus League gameplay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sure. I saw he was taking, live BP the other day. Paul Hoynes had tweeted a video out, actually off Luis Ortiz, ironically. And he actually rocked him for a homer the other day in live BP. Not that it matters again. But, no, I think, to get him into Cactus League play, they'll work him slow. I don't think, but I would expect within the next couple of days we'll see Chase probably get some outfield time in the Cactus League.
I really hope so. Like I said, I really want to see him out there, especially with a bat that we need in the lineup. I mean, if he's just making contact, I want him
just because
in the majors.
Of how they do things. I'm just gonna say it right now. I would be flabbergasted if Chase started the year in Cleveland.
So would I.
Yeah.
But I want it. I just want to see the young guys now. If you're going to go young, let's see young. Just go all in on it right now.
Well, to me, they're walking a fine line, right? Because they're coming off an ALCS, and they also did sign some older guys. Like Carlos Santana is, to my knowledge, the oldest active position player. Him and McCutchen are neck and neck for oldest active position player in the MLB. So, they are still trying to win, but to me, it's almost like we've seen enough of Will Brennan. If Chase DeLauder can be better than Will Brennan, then like I think he helps you win now and for the future.
Yeah, I agree. And Will Brennan, not that he's a horrible fielder, but you can do better in the field as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So
he actually, I saw he had a nice outfield assist in a Cactus League.
yeah, he's had a couple sliding catches for us too, but there are a couple blunders that he'll have out there, and you're like, oh my, like what are we doing here?
I wouldn't mind eventually if it's DeLauder against righties and Big Christmas against lefties.
That's what I want. That's what I want them to lead the year off with.
But I like I said, I just don't see them. I think Chase would have to have a spring like he did last year for him to bust the door down and crack the opening day
he went
roster.
nuts last year.
Yeah. So we'll see what that happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kevin, we're going to finish it up with
odds and ends.
That's right.
Odds and ends.
So
we're back at
ends.
it. What is this, the fourth week in a row we've done it now?
Fourth or fifth.
I like ending with this. It's grown on me, and
I
the fans are liking
too.
it too, I hope.
Yeah, we hope so. So anyhow, Browns cut Charlie Hewlett. Sad to see him go. Longest tenure Brown outside of Joel Bitonio. I will say, shout out West Virginia Mountaineers. Rex Suahara, who replaced him last year, did a very adequate job. He's cheaper. Unfortunately, when you are specialists like this, one injury can derail your tenure with the team, and it doesn't matter that he's been here for 10, 11 years. They cut him, and it was sad to see him go, but I
was a little surprised by it, but also he was like the highest paid long snapper in the league, was he not?
He was up there.
I know he was up there.
And also,
sure.
I think it's just, he was hurt vast majority of the year, and you had a guy in Rex Suahara who makes a lot less. And look, with the Albatross in the room and the Deshaun Watt, like they got to cut
wherever they can.
Yeah, cut corners wherever they can. Cleveland State, we mentioned that their losing streak had ended, and Kevin, the Vikings on a little bit of a slide since then, dropping 3 of their last 4. So come on, Vikes, get it back together.
Yeah, get it back together. We were having fun with the Go Vikings. We want to bring it back.
That's right. Another team we brought up last week in odds and ends. We got to stop bringing up these winning streaks in odds and ends. That's what I've determined, because we brought up the Zips, shouted them out, then they blow it to the Bobcats and lose to OU on Saturday.
They did come back and they beat Ball State today, though.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So they did come back.
They're back on the,
Yeah, the Zips should win the MAC. Actually, I'm not going to say it because then they're going to lose in the MAC tournament if I open my mouth. NHL Four Nations, really fun, awesome. NBA can take a few hints from the way these guys did the All-Star game.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Canada did unfortunately beat the United States.
I saw something that was so cool. If the All-Star game went to USA versus World, the World team would have been like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander because he's from Canada, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. Like, could you imagine those 4, and then I forget what the other name was, against a Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, all those. It would be awesome. Steph
cool.
Curry.
And
unbelievable.
I don't mean to discredit NBA players, but like, I just feel like for them, like, I don't know if it's the country stuff matters as much. Like hockey guys, when you tell them you're playing,
so cool, man.
You're playing for the United States of America, those guys go berserk.
I disagree with you. I was just watching a documentary on Netflix, and I wish I knew what it was called. It was just about the Olympic team.
Okay.
About the Olympic team, and those guys took it so serious because they play. Now I'm blanking on what it's called, but
you have to remember
they'll play. It's like the World Cup or something. Like every year they'll play it.
Yeah, the FIBA.
Yeah, the FIBA.
Yeah, but you have to remember.
And the U.S. lost, and then like LeBron and all them get together like, no, we're like, this is the USA, we don't lose.
Yeah,
like they do have that mindset.
I don't know if they can be as successful as hockey was with it, because that was a great thing.
I don't know if it would be as successful as hockey, but it would be way more entertaining to watch.
Producer Derek's pulling it up for us, but I don't know if any of those are it. Appreciate the effort. But anyway, that'll do it. Four Nations, sadly, like we said, the USA goes down in a great entertaining hockey, thrilling.
And I also wanted to shout out before we end the episode. Obviously, Browns cut Charlie Hewlett, but they also brought in Anthony Kendall, former corner from Baldwin Wallace, our alma mater.
Yeah,
that we went to school with for all of 1 year. We were seniors. He was a freshman. I'm not going to act like we hung out with him, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Now we can say we went to school with a Cleveland Browns player, and if he makes the active roster, I'm buying an Anthony Kendall jersey.
All right, we're gonna bookmark you for that. Clip it, Derek. Remember that. And anyhow, real quick before we go over this week,
clip that.
Actually, Derek has found it for
Yes.
us. Court of Gold.
Court of Gold documentary on Netflix. It's a series. I'm only an episode in. I was watching it with your brother, but so far so good. And good so far.
All right. So
And also next week's episode, we wanted to get to that.
We are going to do a special episode next week because we are going to record it a little bit early.
Yes.
Off our usual record Tuesday. Producer Derek and I are both going on vacation. Kevin's staying right here in the CLA.
Staying right here, and I'm not going to act like I'm even remotely tech savvy enough to do what producer Eric does. So, no way it could have been a one-man show next week. So
we are going to record. So there still will be an episode coming out at regular time.
It just won't be about live events.
It's going to be a surprise. We have a couple good ideas for that. Also, like we said, again, want to shout out to all of us, everybody listening to us on Apple. We are now available on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, continue to check us out on Twitter. We're there. We're also everywhere now. We're on Instagram. We're at TikTok. And Kevin, tell them the handle for that.
At CLE Sports Realm. It's for Twitter. It's for Instagram. I believe it's for TikTok. You set up the TikTok.
It is for TikTok.
We're still working on a Facebook page. I kind of messed that up, so I'm not sure how to get it up and running at the moment. So there's some tech issues with Facebook right now, but we're everywhere. So if you go into the bio on Instagram or Twitter, you should see our link tree. It'll give you an attachment to all of our platforms right now.
Yes, absolutely. So making it more easy for you guys to connect to us, and make sure.
And producer Eric put it in the description of the episode.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure you guys still you could comment on Instagram if we post videos there, TikTok as well. So we're everywhere, and just hoping to branch out to more of you. And we appreciate all of the loyal ones who've been with us for all 17 episodes. Shout out to the loyal ones. We appreciate you. And that'll just about do it for us, Kevin.
Yep. For myself, for Jerome, for producer Eric.
Go Cavs.
Oh, I was about to say that. Go Tribe.